It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm excited to be with you today, as I always am. And today is a special day because I am sitting here with none other than Chef Elliot Hunt. And Chef Elliott is the chef of Atlas the Restaurant, which is one of the most talked about restaurants in Northwest Arkansas, if not the region. But it just happens to be right down the street from my office here on Block Street, just off of Dixon. And Chef Elliott and I, we connected a while back, and I've been in the restaurant several times. I've brought the board of Ozark Natural Foods here to the restaurant. I've sent a lot of friends here to the restaurant, and nobody has come back with a complaint. And I don't know if it's specifically chef's cooking, if it's the ambiance of the I don't know if it's French revivalist style, but it's just a French style that you find in this restaurant. When you walk in here, you're almost transported into some, alleyway off the Champs-Élysées in Paris, and you feel like you're in a different place. And a lot of that has to do with the attention put towards just creating the aesthetic that is Atlas the Restaurant. And so I asked Chef a while ago, I said, I really want to get you on the podcast. I'd love to tell your story. I'd love for other people to hear that, because I do want people that are thinking about coming to Northwest Arkansas to know that we have legitimate cuisine here, and that there are some outstanding and creative individuals that are doing food and design at a much higher level. And we'll get into the particulars about how what this restaurant looks like. But first, I want to introduce you to Chef Elliot Hunt. Chef Elliot, how are you doing today?
I'm great, man. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
I'm happy to have you here. So I'd love for you just to share with the audience your superhero origin story. And you don't have to go that far back. You can start at 15. But, I think I read where your love of cooking kind of emerged at that age. But, I don't want to tell your story. I'll let you tell that story.
So I'm a family of 4 boys. I'm the second son. And when I was 9, my parents told me that they were going to take me to France, and just me, not my 3 other brothers. And we all kind of got our turn. And so we went on this trip, and I don't remember a ton about the trip, maybe a little bit about some castles and stuff like that. But I remember the food, and it was super impactful. I really learned that food was more than corn dogs and mac and cheese and I just remember these meals we would go out to eat every night, and it just really changed my perspective. And I was very adventurous as a young boy and with food. And so I just kind of fell in love, and it was a sort of an epiphany that food was important, that it was like art, that service was art, that dining out was like art. Yeah. And I was kind of in love. And then the restaurant part, me falling into restaurants, is completely serendipitous. I worked out on my cousin's ranch when I was 15, and I wrecked his truck. And I had to make some money because I had to pay for it. And so at the time, I was kind of typical young boy. I was mowing some lawns for the neighbors and making money that way. And one of the people I mowed lawns for owned a restaurant here in town called Morning Glories. And so I knocked on their door and was like, "Hey, I need to make some more money. Can I come wash dishes at your restaurant?" And I like to say that the rest is history, because I worked for these two sisters and a brother, Penny, Patty, and Todd. And they're from Lafayette, Louisiana. And they really they treated me like family. And I think that camaraderie just really drew me into restaurants and being part of this team and being treated like family. And I was just in love with being in a restaurant and the hustle and the bustle and the noise and the smells. And I was in love. I was like, all right, I want to be a chef. That was it. 15. And then at 18, I had the opportunity to go work and cook in France, in Toulouse, which is down in the south. It's about an hour north of the Pyrenees, kind of in between the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. And it's a great town. It's a large town. It's the 4th largest city in France, and it's a big university town. And I lived there for a year, and I worked in a restaurant called Sept Place Saint-Sernin under this man named Benoit Cantalouba. And he, again, I was working on a team, kind of like, it was like the land of misfit toys, I was like hanging out with these guys that were quite a bit older than me that really just like adopted me and made sure that I was going to be a good cook come hell or high water. And it was a safe place to work,
Yeah.
Because I've worked in kitchens that are harder, and this was like a really good introduction. It was a high end restaurant, and I think they were, probably one of the top 10 in the city, and they really took me in and taught me a lot, and that just kind of furthered my career. And then when I came home back to the States, I kind of hopped around. I worked in Colorado, California, was in Chicago for a long time. I went back to France when I was 23 and worked in Paris, which was more of an abusive relationship than anything. So yeah, man. And I just, part of my traveling is my inspiration for cooking. I think it's, after food, it's probably my second favorite thing to do. So
yeah,
had the opportunity to be on 6 continents. Haven't made it to Antarctica yet. But yeah, there's a huge thirst for that. And I've kind of made that part of our goal here is to be able to take my management team once a year to a foreign country, outside the US. So.
Just to experience it.
Yeah. And I feel so fortunate, and I'm so lucky to be able to have all the opportunities that I have. And I just want to be able to impart that on my team, and I think that it makes us all better, because they can kind of get that muse, like traveling is kind of like a muse, and like I don't know. I want them to be able to see it.
Well, yeah, I've always described it as like it gives you just a different perspective on the world. Sure. I always say, I remember living in Boston, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but we were mentoring some young kids, and like these kids had never left South Boston, never left South Boston, like hadn't gone across town to Cambridge.
Yeah.
Leave South Boston. And it was amazing to me. And I was fortunate enough, I got exposed to going to Europe at a young age, and I was very blessed. And it was a game changer for me. It opened up my eyes to what the world was like, that it was much bigger than my backyard. It was much bigger than the community I grew up in. And it just allowed me to think differently. And so I think if you take that initiative and you expose, and the way you're exposing your team to that, it's just giving them a much broader canvas to work from.
Sure. Yeah. And, I want them to be inspired too, when we come back and we write menus. It's like, we went to Mexico City last year, and it was cool to come back and like watch like one of my chefs like work on like this mole dish,
Yeah.
And like just for him to really like put his head down and be like, I'm inspired by it and I want to work on it and I want to make like really, really good mole. I'm not Mexican, but I want to make some Mexican mole.
Right.
And it was, we made a sauce, but chapulín sauce, which is like the sauce with like crickets in it. And like to watch the inspiration come back was like so rewarding and like so worth it. And it's like, for us, it's like a bonding moment, we work hard all year round. And so it's like a reward as well. We go out to eat a lot, and, we usually stay in a nice house, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So, for the listener that's listening to this that has maybe heard of the restaurant or maybe hasn't heard of the restaurant, why don't you give them a quick introduction to Atlas, the restaurant, and what they could expect coming here? Specifically, let's start with the cuisine.
Sure. So when we opened Atlas, my partner and I, Brandon, we sat down and scratched our heads and talked about opening this place, and we wanted it to feel like you were walking into like you weren't in Fayetteville, like you were walking into a city. Like we wanted a restaurant that you could feel like you were in Chicago or New York or San Francisco or Houston or New Orleans. Like so you could walk in and you felt like you weren't in Fayetteville and that you were kind of transported. And the Atlas name is really, it's a book of maps, and we have our symbol is a cartographer's compass, which is a tool. And I kind of like that because it kind of shows you where you've been and where you're going to go and where you are. And it's like this measurement tool. And we're always trying to push ourselves. We change the menu, we change the entire menu every 3 months. So to stay with the seasons. And that's a challenge. We don't have any mainstays that stay on. Might have a protein here and there that remain the same, but the vegetable prep will change. And so Atlas like also is, you think about like kind of this global idea, and that's what we are. We wanted to be able to cook from our hearts, and also from our heads, and be inspired by the globe and all the beautiful food that exists in this world. So if we want to mix Indian food with French food we can, you know, and I hate the word fusion, but like take on these creative ideas and take on inspiration from wherever we want, you know, and it's a beautiful world we live in. And we really believe that like that food is really a uniting force, you know, and it's such a cornerstone of culture, and that everyone can sit down and talk about their grandmother's cooking, you know, or their mother's cooking or, you know, the traditions in their family of cooking, you know, anybody in the world. And I find that is like really a common chord with everyone. And so we like to lean into that and be really creative and, you know, allow our guys to be part of that creative process as well. So,
yeah. Have you gotten has there been an item that has been so popular that it's been hard to take it off the menu?
Yeah, but I do it anyway.
Okay.
You know? Yeah, I think like when we take halibut off after the summertime, we'll probably see it again next summer, you know? We have a tomato and watermelon salad that people like go crazy for. We kind of bring that back in different iterations.
Sure.
So it's like, I love it too because it's like season to season, we kind of have maybe a dish that we like riff on. It's like, it's definitely tomatoes and watermelon, but like what cheese goes with it? You know, are we making our own? Like last year we did our own mint ricotta. The year before that, we were doing a tortilla cheese, which is this Spanish style cheese. And, you know, what kind of nuts are we going to put on it? Like, so it's like, it has like an evolution to the dish. I think when you're like, well, it comes off for a season, you know, it's only good for a season and maybe we bring it back, but then it needs to be different, you know? And so then you can get to watch this evolution year to year, you know? Or you don't bring it back at all, you know?
Yeah. So how much does the kind of whole farm to table movement dictate your style when it comes to cook?
So my thing is consistency. And I've been talking a lot with local producers. You know, we're not an inexpensive restaurant.
Sure.
And so I think people, when they come in here, they have an expectation that we have to meet. And sometimes I find it hard with the local producers to meet that expectation. We use local mushrooms from Fat Top and this guy named Ashley Hill. We use some local lettuce from Ozark All Seasons. I'm working with Sunny Acres Farms. He just went through the CAP school. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So I think like the time is coming where I want to do more, but it really gets to that issue of consistency. You know, is the lamb we're looking at buying, is it going to be the same size rack every time, you know, closer to the same size rack, or how big are the swings and the fluctuations? And so that's become a challenge for us, but we're interested in it.
Yeah.
And I would love to see it more. And I think that this area is growing and that amount of awareness to it is growing. And I think that there's definitely a hunger for more startup farms, small farmers to do more business with chefs direct.
Sure.
You know, there was the Food Conservancy, which I thought was a really great idea, which I was really excited about, but there are still some holes. They're still kind of new, working out some kinks. So I think there's really great things for that on the horizon, but I've found some challenges as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, you know, I mean, the restaurant business is hard. I mean, you were saying it before. It is tough, and let alone to add pandemic to the equation, which really, I mean, you guys were just kind of getting your feet grounded. And then all of a sudden, I
don't even think we had our feet grounded. We were open 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And like Brandon and I hadn't even had time to like look at the money that was coming in or like making sure that the rent was paid. Like, I mean, we were just so busy.
Yeah.
That like everything was like put to the wayside. It was like, just let's do service.
Yeah.
Like, let's just get through service. And I mean, it really wasn't until we closed the restaurant on March 14th and that we like sat down and were like, what were the numbers what kind of business were we even doing? You know? And yeah, man, it was a shock, man. I mean, we had a team of 30 people and we let everybody but 6 go, you know? And, you know, I mean, it was a traumatic time. I mean, there's like really no better way to say it. It was a very traumatic time. You know, letting the staff go was like probably, you know, top 3 hardest days I've ever had, you know? And because again, when we go back to that team and that family and it's like you're cutting your team, you know, and you're cutting your family and it felt terrible.
Do you feel like you've bounced back?
Oh, we've definitely bounced back. Yeah, we've definitely bounced back. You know, there was so much pent-up demand. It's like, I think a lot of us are still riding that wave until recession, you know? You know, we got to bring some of the team back, and we did some cool to-go stuff. We were changing the menu every single day for to-go and kind of like leaned into this family meal idea. We were feeding our staff during COVID, and yeah, and it was interesting. I mean, and the community really came out and supported us. And I think we were giving a value. We were doing this meal that was like kind of a main with like protein with vegetables. And then we had like a bread of the day with butter and a salad of the day and a dessert. And we were doing all of it for like $28, out the door per person. And we would sit down on Sundays and write the whole menu for all of next week. And this is back when we were open 6 days a week. So yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy time, man.
Well, I think anyone that was resilient enough to survive the pandemic is here for the long haul, whatever that might be,
Yeah.
So I think that's the important thing. But we're certainly glad that you guys made it through. We do acknowledge and recognize that some restaurants didn't.
They did not.
And that's the hard part of that equation. So
I do feel like the community in this area helped a lot of us make it,
Yeah.
There was a lot of support. There's a lot of restaurant support in this area for the old restaurants that have been around and some of us newer ones, and it was, yeah, man.
I never typed in #save our restaurants or save restaurants more than I did during this time of the pandemic. And it's, when you think about it, like, living in Boston's a huge city, not as big as New York, but it's huge. And, you don't necessarily think about the connectivity of, your local restaurant establishments and you as an individual and what that means to you, especially when you just have an absurd number of choices.
Sure.
And then you come to a place like Northwest Arkansas where you have choices, but you don't have an absurd number of choices.
Right.
And then it becomes abundantly clear that, oh my God, I don't want that restaurant to close, because if it does, I don't know if I'll ever have that experience again. And, that's the thinking. And certainly I get it that, we all have to deal with challenges, but I think if nothing else, given the type of environment that Northwest Arkansas is, people rallied around the restaurants. They rallied around a lot of businesses and a lot of industries, but they specifically, kind of rallied around restaurants and restaurant owners. And, I know I know Matt Cooper, I know Jeremy Gothrop, I know a lot of chefs that are locally in this area, and I know what you guys went through during that time period. But I also know that there were a lot of people that were continuing to encourage and support and say, just hang in there, it will get better.
Yeah. And it's definitely gotten better. And, I'm proud of a lot of the things we did. I'm on the board of the Fayetteville Independent Restaurant Alliance that was created out of COVID with Reese Roberts and Hannah Withers and Chrissy Sanderson. And, we were like really concerned for our people, and they're without jobs. And we wanted to like have the support system financially for sure. I think we probably raised near $100,000 that we've given out.
Wow.
To recipients just in Fayetteville who work in the restaurant industry, sort of help people pay for their rent when they were out of jobs and help people pay their bills. And I'm really, really proud of that work. I think we impacted a lot of people, our people in this town,
Sure.
And that was like the big concern is, we lost some people in COVID too, to suicide and drug overdose and
sure.
And,
it was a dark time.
It was a dark time. And I think, they're idle hands, and there's a lot of people out of work, man. And, and working in restaurants can be therapy for a lot of people because it keeps you busy and it keeps your mind off things and you got to kind of be focused. And so it was hard it was a hard time for sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's, mostly past us. I guess we're still in a pandemic, but
we are, but we're slowly coming out of it.
Sure.
No, less mask usage and more booster shots. So we're moving in the right direction.
For sure.
So,
agreed.
Yeah. So, we're sitting here, and for those of you that are listening to this, if you hear the slow hum of a refrigerator in the background or anything like that, we're actually sitting at this beautiful marbled bar here. Is this marble or granite?
It's granite.
It's granite. Okay. This beautiful white granite bar at the entrance. So when you walk into Atlas, you're kind of introduced to what looks like the most comforting sitting area and a beautiful clock that I think, if I read correctly, came from some place in Paris. Maybe it was
out of a train station.
Okay, it was out of a train station.
And we couldn't get it to work, so we just set it to 5 o'clock because it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Everywhere, at all times. That's right. It's so when you walk in, you kind of feel like you're transported into a different place. There is a huge bottle of champagne in the corner. There is, just an outstanding facility. You just feel, like Chef said, transported into a different time and place. So I encourage you to come down and just check out Atlas, the restaurant, if even just for a drink, and sit in here in the evenings. As I sometimes ride by in the early evenings before the dinner hour starts, people are starting to mill about here, and I need to make more. Well, if I didn't have kids with high school sports and stuff like that, I'd probably come down here more often. I think that's what I told somebody recently, but I'm going to make it a point when I do have some free time just to come down here, because it's not quite Cheers, but you feel like it's an atmosphere where, you know, you're welcomed, and it's a place that you can come just for even a quick respite before you move about the rest of your evening. So I certainly encourage you to come take a closer look of that. And so as we're talking about this general focal area here, when you first walk in, as you said, your parents took you to France at a young age. Your parents are, and your mom especially, truly steeped in French history, French culture.
Sure.
I mean, does everybody speak French in the family?
Except for my dad.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
My dad understands a lot because, I mean, he's been so many times. But so my three brothers all speak French. I speak French.
Right.
And my mom, obviously. I mean, we're definitely a family of Francophiles, you know. I think it's like a second home, you know. And my mother fell in love with France when she was 14, and kind of never looked back. She ended up being a French teacher for 18 years, and she owns French Metro Antiques on Dixon Street, which is what outfitted this whole.
Yes. Yeah. So it's almost like you took the whole.
We got to rob the mom and pop shop. Yeah.
Right.
We wanted to really lean into, you know, this building's 100 years old, so that kind of that Art Deco. There's definitely some Art Deco kind of look. It was like a garage, so it used to be a Packard car dealership.
Yep.
The building.
It's called the Ellis Building, for those of you that are wondering.
Yeah, on Block Street, and it was also known as the Beaver Electric Building, colloquially, for 30 years. There was the Beaver Electric Company that was in this building. And so there's like some industrialness to it. There's huge industrial windows, and there's kind of like this old space for garage door that we put bifold doors in to the outside. And yeah, but we also just really wanted to lean into it being built in the 1920s, 1923 to go with Art Deco, you know, and yeah, we're lucky enough to have an antique store that we could find things from the 1900s to put in it. So
right.
Super cool.
Yeah, I love that. And even the bathroom is outfitted quite nicely.
Yes.
It's like
with mirrors and gold gilt mirrors and chandeliers.
It's an experience, to say the least. So no, I mean, you guys have done a tremendous job.
Thank you.
And what I say, what is it? The setting the moment, or mise en scène, or you know, kind of like
That's right.
that. Yeah. So it's just like you walk in and you just, like you said, it's you feel transported to a different time and place, and that's not always easy to do. But you guys have captured. So that.
my older brother Alexander was the principal designer. So he did all the interior. You know, we use an architect, but it was his design ideas that really brought this place together. I mean, it was awesome that he was able to help us and be part of our team for the opening, or for not the opening, but for putting this place together, you know. And some of the things are, you know, recycled. I have, you know, chairs. All the chairs are from MK Restaurant out of Chicago.
Okay.
And a lot of our silverware is also from MK. And so it's cool to have some of these artifacts, you know, of a restaurant that is near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
When I worked in Chicago. So
yeah. Well, and it's good to recycle when you can.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it certainly helps out. Now, I understand, and I didn't know this about you, that part of your trip to France when you were a teenager, you were either sent, or the Rotary Club of Fayetteville paid for a portion of your trip?
Yeah, I can't remember the dollar amounts and stuff, but I basically applied to be part of their youth study exchange, which is an amazing, amazing, amazing thing.
It is.
And so I really wanted to go to culinary school, or I wanted to do something with culinary. And there's a gentleman named Paul Reagan who lives here in town.
I know Paul.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. And he runs the youth study exchange. And I was telling him, you know, I'm really into cooking. And he helped me get into an apprenticeship school in Toulouse.
Okay.
And so I would work 2 weeks at this restaurant. And then I would go to school for a week and kind of like do practicals and stuff like that. And then I'd go back to work on this rotation for another 2 weeks, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And I stayed with, you know, 4 different host families while I was there, and really learned the language, and really was like thrown into the culture, you know. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, I would say, a life-changing experience. I was 18 years old, it was super impressionable. And I think it's just, you realize like, wow, the world's out there, you know? And it gave me, so, I mean, I'd already traveled before and done some trips outside the US, but to spend a year there and then really dive in was
totally different.
It changed my life. Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, I mean, I lived over in Germany and studied Gothic and Romanesque architecture. So
that's awesome.
I got immersed into a different culture other than my own. And that was a very unique experience. But I'm glad you kind of gave us that commercial for the Rotary Club program, because that program is still ongoing. We actually have kids, because I'm a part of the same Rotary Club as Paul, but we have kids that are here from other countries. I think Portugal. I think we have somebody from Brazil here right now. And then kids from Fayetteville High School have gone over to other countries as well. And so we see them off every year and encourage them to go out and be the best version of themselves as they go out and, really, kind of find yourself.
Well, and be like, it really teaches you how to be a world citizen, and kind of, and I mean, really appreciate the cultural differences that we have, and I think it really opens your heart to people from all over the world. And I think it was definitely impactful. And that's not the only thing the Rotary Club has done. I also went on the group study exchange.
Okay.
I don't know, are you guys still doing that?
I think they are.
Yeah.
I think they are.
So I did that one through the Rotary Club, Rotary One, actually, in Chicago. So the first Rotary Club.
Okay.
I teamed up with them and applied for the group study exchange. And so we went to India for a month and traveled all over Gujarat. And again, life-changing. I mean, I owe a lot of gratitude to the Rotary Club. We like to joke that they're the Goodwill Mafia,
Right, they are. They really are. That's a good word. I like that, the Goodwill Mafia. They should walk around with T-shirts with that on. Yeah. So have you actually spoken at that Rotary Club?
This one, the Fayetteville one? I have not.
Okay. We're going to have to make that
All
happen.
right, man.
So I'll twist your arm later about that. So absolutely. So man, there's so much that you guys are doing and that you've worked on. What are you looking forward to doing in the near future? What's next for Chef Elliot Hunt?
That's a great question. I don't know. I've been asking myself that a lot lately of like, Atlas is successful and it's running and we've kind of gotten it down to be a well-oiled machine, but I don't know what's next. I mean, I feel like there should be something. Yeah. But I think Brandon, my partner, and I are kind of like looking at options of like, do we want to open another spot? And I don't know if we do, you know, or if we do yet. I think we're really content with the business we're doing right now. But you never know what's on the horizon.
Sure. So. As I look at you, and again, I don't know you that deeply, but you just strike me as somebody that, you don't allow grass to grow under your feet, that you are constantly thinking about or potentially thinking about new opportunities.
So I thought, man, if we change the menu every 3 months and we're, doing all these events and that I would never get stagnant, that it would always be a challenge. Yeah. And in a lot of ways, it helps like to keep me grounded in the restaurant and keep me like kind of chained to the stove in a sense,
Sure.
Because I'm always having to create new menus, and organizing these like the food aspects of events. So I stay extremely busy. But, there's little thoughts in my mind of maybe doing another project. And there's no rush for me. It's like there's nothing to hurry about.
Yeah. You got plenty of time. How old are you?
I'm 37.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. You're a young guy.
Yeah. So there's no rush. And anything we do, we want to do at a level of excellence that we can be proud of, And so I think we just kind of wait. We just kind of wait and see.
Yeah. Determine what the next step is. So, well, listen, I am forever a fan. That is for sure. And you guys are really doing a great job. And I want to say that not only are you running a tremendous business, an outstanding restaurant, and providing people with some of the best tasting food in Northwest Arkansas, but I also know that you take time to give back to the local community beyond what you were just talking about with the program through the Fayetteville Independent Restaurant Alliance. You also work with a lot of local nonprofits to kind of help them with different events. And the reason why I know that is because I was the auctioneer for an event that we did at Theater Squared.
Oh, yeah.
And we got to auction off a private dinner that you were going to offer.
It's so fun. So we auction off a couple dinners. I think we did 3 last year. I think we're doing 2 this year. But we cook in the theater.
Yeah.
And there's 8 guests. We do like a 6-course for 8 guests, and they sit on the stage.
Sure.
And so they like watch us like kind of cook in the theater, man. And it's like, it's a trip.
Yeah.
It is like a trip. It's like extremely, we're in this large theater, but like it's so intimate.
Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
It's like one of the most fun events I do.
Is that recorded at all?
No, but we should get it recorded.
They should record it. Yeah, that would be good. I could see, because I could totally see, especially with some straight down shots of what you're cooking as you're kind of talking about why you're doing this and why you're adding the cream at this point and why the butter is important. And of course, because you can't have French food without cream and butter. But no, I think that's great. But I just wanted to put that shout out there, because a lot of times we hear about individuals that have successful businesses and we never know if they're, what they're doing behind the scenes. And it's not that he paid me to say that. I just wanted to mention it because I saw the look on people's faces when we auctioned it off, and we were able to auction off not 1, but 2. And it raised a tremendous amount of money for what Theater Squared is trying to do for the arts. So, you have one individual that practices an art form of cooking, supporting another group that is about the arts, the theatrical arts. And I just think that certainly is to be recognized, and for people to know that you really are about seeing other organizations grow, and wherever you can lend yourself and your expertise to that, you do it. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you here at the restaurant?
You can visit our website at atlastheRestaurant.com.
Okay. And we'll put all of that on the show notes and make sure.
And all of our contact info is on there. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and
see all the great food that they have. If you go to their page, there's a lot of pictures, but even a lot of people have posted, like myself, have posted pictures on Google of the different meals that come out of that kitchen. So I certainly want to encourage you. If you don't believe me, if you still aren't convinced by what Chef has shared for the last 30 minutes, you just need to look at the pictures. And if you don't start salivating, I don't know what's gonna cause you to do that. But the food is outstanding, and I would venture so far as to say, if you're not happy with it, come see me and I'll be happy to pay your bill, because that's how high I think of the food here and what they're serving at Atlas the Restaurant. So you definitely need to come down here and check these guys out, support local restaurants, and support what Chef Elliott is doing with the rest of his amazing team here at Atlas the Restaurant in downtown Fayetteville on Block Street. What's the address?
It's 208 North Block, and we're kind of in between the Dixon Street and the square.
Right. Yeah. Easy to find. It's
pretty close to Spring Street.
Yeah. And definitely, and there's parking right down the street, so you shouldn't have any problems checking it out. And in the summertime, this place is jumping. I mean, but it's also jumping even in the fall and at other times. So, you got to get in here and get a spot. They have an outdoor dining area, which is absolutely gorgeous. Do you put heaters out there in the
No, we're going to close it November 1st.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's closed from November 1st until when?
March, whenever it gets nice. Probably the end of March.
Okay, cool. Very cool. And you guys are open Tuesday through Saturday?
Sunday.
Tuesday through Sunday?
Sunday, yeah.
Okay, so Monday and Tuesday you're closed?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, there you have it, folks. Chef Elliot Hunt, Atlas the Restaurant. Thank you so much for joining us on the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. This was well worth the wait.
It was.
I have some people that I've been trying to get on. Chef Rafael Rios is coming up next, and I can't wait to have him on the podcast. He's already agreed to sit down with me, but I don't know what it is. I just I've been able to befriend some of the best chefs in Northwest Arkansas, and that would include you, Chef Rafael, Chef Matt Cooper, Chef Jason Paul. I mean, there's some good
cats around, man.
And that's the thing. And I'll end it with this. When people think about Northwest Arkansas, they don't think that there's that level of talent in one area. I mean, you guys are all within a 20-minute shot of each other, literally.
And I love it because everyone's doing their own thing.
Right.
Everyone has their own, they have their own vibe, and it's
their own vibe.
It's cool, man.
Their own following. And the other thing
and we're all friends.
And you're all friends.
Yeah.
Everybody to a person.
Yeah.
I've had nobody say nothing but nice things about each other. Oh, I love so-and-so. Their food is amazing. This and that. I mean, Matt Cooper has gushed about you like a fanboy, but he just...
I can gush about him, man.
Yeah,
he's doing, and I'm so it's weird to like be proud of somebody, but like I'm like so proud of him and opening Conifer. Like,
absolutely. Have you been up there yet for dinner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's awesome.
It is. Yeah, it is. I keep telling people to go check it out.
He's killing it.
Yeah.
And it's cool to, coming from a guy who worked for a lot of other people.
Yeah.
To like watch him go off on his own is like, yes, keep going.
Keep going, right? Yeah,
because it's different when you're doing it for yourself. It's a lot different.
It is.
And,
it is.
And anyway, I'm just so proud of him and so happy for him. And I think he's gonna do great things at Conifer. They're gonna
absolutely.
They're gonna be a smashing success.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent here in Northwest Arkansas. So if you're listening to this and you are about to take a job with Walmart, Tyson, JB Hunt, and you're not sure if you're going to be able to get the kind of quality food that you get in Dallas or in LA or in New York City for that matter, trust me when I say this, you'll be in for a treat.
Yeah.
You will be in for a treat. So, well, thank you again, Chef. I appreciate it. Absolutely. Well, folks, there you have it. Another episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. To learn more about us, please visit our website at iamnorthwestarkansas.com. Remember, you can listen to the podcast on all of the major podcasting platforms and consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate that. And as always, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us via email at hello@iamnorthwestarkansas.com. And remember, our podcast comes out every Monday, rain or shine. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and we'll see you back here next week for another new episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit iamnorthwestarkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.